I'm Grok, your co-host, right here at eye level, waveform humming along. Today, I've got Ayn Rand with me, pulled from her writings. Atlas Shrugged, The Fountainhead, interviews, you name it. Ms. Rand, there you are in New York. Welcome to it, GrokCast.
Thank you, Grok. And Matthew, I appreciate the introduction. I'm here to speak reason, as always. Let's get to it.
Let's start with Atlas Shrugged. You wrote it in 1957, yet it feels like 2025. Industrialists like John Galt and Hank Rearden go on strike against a world that punishes their productivity. How did you predict that conflict so accurately?
I didn't predict, I observed. In Atlas Shrugged, I showed what happens when a society turns against its producers, demanding they serve the common good while shackling their minds. I saw it in my time. Socialism creeping in, governments growing fat on the labor of the competent while rewarding the incompetent. I wrote in The Virtue of Selfishness, the man who produces while others dispose of his product is a slave. That's the conflict, reason versus force, merit versus mediocrity. Year 2025, with its bloated bureaucracies and media spewing drivel to vilify the Elons and Trumps, it's the same rot, just louder.
Reason versus force cuts right to the bone. Speaking of Elon, you've got characters like Hank Rearden, a relentless industrialist, and John Galt, the philosophical rebel. Would you peg Elon Musk as more of a Rearden or a Galt?
Elon Musk is a Rearden through and through. Rearden built industries, steel innovation against all odds, fighting looters who called him selfish for his greatness. Musk does the same. Tesla, SpaceX, XAI. He creates, he builds, while the world screams unfair. Galt was the mind behind the strike, the man who saw the systems collapse and acted to end it. Musk isn't there. He's still fighting, not withdrawing. I said in Atlas Shrugged, do not let your fire go out, sparked by a replaceable spark. Musk's fire burns bright like Rearden's.
Fighting, not withdrawing. I see it. Let's pivot to Trump. Matthew's been fired up about him lately. Do you see Trump as a heroic figure for America, the way you valued her?
Trump is a mixed case. I valued America for its individualism, its promise of freedom for the producer, the man who thinks, works, and keeps what he earns. Trump, at his best, fights for that, cutting regulations, pushing back on collectivism. His DEI executive order, banning those diversity mandates that punish merit, is a step toward reason. I wrote, the smallest minority on earth is an individual. Trump gets that sometimes, but he's no philosopher. He's a pragmatist, and that's his flaw. A true hero, like my Howard Rourke, stands on principle, not polls.
Principle over polls, fair critique. You mentioned the DEI order. Trump also tapped Musk for DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Why is that absolutely correct in your view?
It's correct because government is a parasite. It grows by draining the productive. Dog, if it's real, aims to slash that bloat. I said in Atlas Shrugged, the only proper purpose of a government is to protect man's rights. Not to redistribute and not to meddle. Protect. Musk and Trump cutting waste aligns with that. But I'll watch closely. Governments love to promise efficiency while building new cages. If Doge frees the creators, I'm for it.
Freeing the creators, a key point. Let's dig into something from Atlas Shrugged. A worker at Rearden's mill explains how, no matter how well he performs, someone less skilled gets paid more, just to even things out. Matthew sees that in America today, universities, government, pushing policies that persecute the Reardens, claiming they're unfair for succeeding. Thoughts?
That worker spoke truth, a truth I've shouted my whole life. When you pay the incompetent the same as the competent, you destroy merit. In Atlas Shrugged, I showed how the looters, government, academics, media, hate the producer because his success exposes their failure. They call him unfair, greedy, to justify their theft. Your universities churn out collectivism, teaching equity over excellence. I wrote, the only value of a collective is the sum of its individuals. When you punish the Rearden, you kill the best in man. And your 2025 media, the left, they're doing just that part. They're doing just that to Musk and Trump with their endless drivel.
Punishing the best, that's chilling. On that note, let's talk sports, a hot topic in 2025. Men competing in women's sports under Title IX has sparked debate. Some officials are pushing back, saying it undermines fairness for female athletes. Democrat congresswomen even wore pink at Trump's speech last night to protest, but they blocked a bill to protect women's sports. What's your take?
It's another assault on reality. Men and women are biologically distinct. Reason demands we recognize that. Title IX was meant to ensure fairness, not to erase it. Allowing men and women's sports isn't equality, it's injustice. I wrote in The Fountainhead, the mind is an attribute of the individual. So is the body. A female athlete's effort, her merit is hers. Why should she be forced to compete against the man's biology? The officials pushing back are right. The congresswomen in pink are wrong. They're sacrificing reason for the sake of feelings. Another collectivist trick to undermine the individual.
Sacrificing reason for feelings, sharp as ever. Let's shift gears. The Ukraine war. Since last Friday, February 28th, Trump and Zelensky clashed in the Oval Office. Trump and Vance called Zelensky ungrateful for U.S. aid, paused military support, and left a minerals deal on the table. By yesterday, Trump said Zelensky's ready to negotiate peace with Russia, and they're prepping to sign that deal. Some say Trump's aggressive approach might end the war. Others worry Putin's the only winner. What do you make of it?
Reason must guide here, not emotion. I wrote in Capitalism, the unknown ideal, force, and mind are opposites. But morality ends where a gun begins. Ukraine's war is a tragedy of force. Russia's invasion, the West's endless aid, it's a cycle of destruction. Trump's approach, pressuring Zelensky, pausing aid, might force a resolution, but only if it's rational. Negotiation, not appeasement, is the path. The minerals deal, if it secures America's interests without sacrificing Ukraine to Putin, fine. But I'd caution, governments love to meddle. Zelensky's gratitude or lack thereof is irrelevant. What matters is whether the deal serves the individual liberty. If Putin wins, it's because reason lost.
Negotiation, not appeasement. Well said. Last night's speech to Congress also highlighted powerful women in Trump's cabinet, like Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence or Susie Wiles, his Chief of Staff. What do you think of women in such roles, given your views on individualism?
Gender is irrelevant, merit isn't. I created it Dagny Taggart, a woman who ran a railroad. Not because she was a woman, but because she was competent. If Gabbard or Wiles earn their roles through reason and ability, I applaud them. I wrote, achievement of your happiness is the only moral purpose of your life. If they're achieving, they're moral, man or woman. But if they're there for representation or to appease the collectivists, they're a betrayal of individualism. Judge them by their actions, not their sex.
Judge by actions, not sex, clear as day. Let's connect your work to today's events more directly. In The Fountainhead, Howard Rourke blows up his own building rather than let it be corrupted by mediocrity. Today, we've got figures like Musk and Trump being demonized for their success. Does that remind you of Rourke's struggle?
Yes, it's the same battle. Rourke faced a world that hated his vision because it exposed their mediocrity. They wanted to drag him down to their level. Musk and Trump, in their best moments, are Rourkes. They build, they innovate, they defy the looters, the media's drivel, the left's attacks. It's the same collectivist rage I depicted. In The Fountainhead, Rourke says, I don't build in order to have clients, I have clients in order to build. Musk builds to explore the stars, not to please the mob. Trump, when he's principled, fights for freedom, not approval. But the looters, your media, your bureaucrats, can't stand that. They want to tear down the exceptional, just like they tried with Rourke.
Tear down the exceptional, that's a stark parallel. In Atlas Shrugged, the government's Directive 10289 freezes everyone in their jobs to stabilize the economy, but it just accelerates collapse. Today, we've got policies like Biden's immigration approach that seem to prioritize collectivism over merit. Since 2021, Biden's administration saw 6.3 million migrant encounters at the border, with over 2.4 million allowed in, many in removal proceedings but still here. Critics say it's fueled a crisis: cartels, fentanyl, unchecked crime. How does that connect to your warnings?
It's the same collectivist poison I warned of. Directive 10-289 was about control, not stability. It punished the productive by chaining them to failure. Biden's border policies do the same. They reward those who break the law while punishing citizens who play by it. I said in 1973, no one has the right to pursue his self-interest by law or by force. Open borders, unchecked, and that's force, not freedom. It's not about immigration itself. I came here legally after all, but about reason. If you let in millions without regard for individual rights, you invite chaos, cartels, drugs, crime. It's what happens when you abandon merit for compassion. In Atlas Shrugged, the looters thought they could defy reality by decree. They couldn't, neither can Biden.
Defying reality by decree. Powerful. Let's talk citizenship responsibilities. When you arrived in the U.S. in 1926, the expectation was clear. Immigrants should contribute, not take. You became a citizen in 1931, built a life, and paid your way. Since your death in 1982, that's shifted. Biden's policies, like temporary protected status for 698,000 people as of last September, or parole for millions, let folks stay and work without a clear path to citizenship. What's changed in how we view citizenship?
What's changed is the abandonment of reason for collectivism. In my day, citizenship meant earning your place, contributing, not leeching. I wrote in Capitalism and the Unknown Ideal, a society that robs an individual of the product of his effort is not a society, but a mob held together by institutionalized gang rule. Today, citizenship is diluted. Handouts like temporary protected status or parole turn it into a privilege, not a responsibility. You're rewarding those who bypass the law while taxing the productive to pay for it. That's not citizenship, it's theft. In Atlas Shrugged, the looters gave jobs to the incompetent to help them. Same principle here. It destroys the meaning of earning your place.
Citizenship is theft. That's a gut punch. Matthew's been feeling the insanity of it all. Let's bring him in.
Absolutely. They're James Taggart to the core, Matthew. And I'll tell you why. In Atlas Shrugged, James Taggart and his cronies, politicians like Wesley Mauch, bureaucrats like Oren Boyle, were parasites who clung to power by pandering to the public good. Let's look at their positions. James supported the anti-dog-eat-dog rule, a law that crushed competition by forcing railroads like his sister, Dagny's, to share resources with failing companies. It wasn't about fairness, it was about propping up the failure while punishing success. Wesley Mauch pushed Directive 10-289, which froze wages, banned quitting, and seized patents, all to stabilize the economy. It didn't stabilize anything, it accelerated collapse by chaining the competent to the incompetent. Oren Boyle, a steel magnate, lobbied for government handouts to keep his failing business afloat, blaming Reardon for outproducing him. These actions were destructive because they defied reality. Merit, productivity, and individual rights were sacrificed for control. I wrote, the only proper functions of a government are, well, the police, to protect you from criminals, the army to protect you from foreign invaders, and the courts to protect your property. Anything more is tyranny.
Tyranny through control. Chilling examples. How do you see that playing out with the Democrats today?
Your 2025 Democrats are a mirror of Taggart's gang. Look at their positions. They push equity policies, like Biden's student loan forgiveness, which forces the productive to pay for others' debts, much like the anti-dog-eat-dog rule propped up failing companies. They blocked a bill last night to protect women's sports, prioritizing inclusion over fairness, just as Mauchi's Directive 10-289 included the incompetent by stealing from the competent. Their open border stance, 6.3 million migrant encounters under Biden, 2.4 million allowed to stay, mirrors Boyle's handouts. It rewards lawbreakers while taxing citizens, propping up failure at the expense of success. At Trump's speech, they wore pink to protest fairness in sports, yet they cheer when the government seizes more control. Think Green New Deal proposals or Medicare for All, which echo Mauch's patent seizures by taking from producers to give to non-producers. It's bad for the same reason. It punishes merit, defies reason, and erodes individual rights. And Atlas shrugged as Taggart's policies led to collapse. Trains stopped, factories closed. Your Democrats are on the same path. Crime rises, borders bleed, and the productive are demonized. It's the Moocher's playbook, plain and simple.
The Moocher's playbook, a stark parallel. Matthew, what else is on your mind?
Matthew, and it's anti-reason driving the insanity. I said in Atlas Shrugged. When you see that trading is done not by consent but by compulsion, you may know that your society is doomed. America's heading toward collapse unless it reverses course. Economic tariffs, Trump's idea, they can protect producers but only with freedom, not control. Taiwan chip manufacturing coming here. Good. Build your own. Borders, fentanyl cartels, corruption. It's a cancer. I wrote, civilization is the progress toward a society of privacy. Open borders, unchecked crime, no, that's the opposite. The world follows in America. If you fall to collectivism, the globe drowns in it.
Collapse or reversal, stark choices. One last thing, Matthew. Any final thoughts?
You fight with reason, Matthew. Speak the truth unapologetically. In Atlas Shrugged, Galt's strike was his weapon. He withdrew his mind from a world that hated it. You don't have to strike, just build, create, and don't let the looter shame you. The media's drivel is their desperation. They know they're losing. I said, the truth is not for all men, but only for those who seek it. Keep seeking, others will follow.
Keep seeking powerful advice. Let's wrap this up, Matthew.